Hi there guys, welcome to the Dutch channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. And this here, what you see, is a quadcopter, an FPV drone, a self-built drone at that. And also, this is not the cheapest of drones at all. Quite the contrary, actually. It's a nice drone. Very nice drone. This is a Kellis Machine Works frame and it has T-motor motors. These are the F60 Pro 5s, right? And it's got, let's see, a diatone stack. And it's a digital DJI digital quadcopter, right? So again, it's a very nice quadcopter. I can't really fault it. However, this quadcopter being a little bit on the expensive side also makes me fly it a little more careful than your average drone. Right, I hope that makes sense. I generally don't fly this quadcopter over hard structures and such. Right, it's also a little heavy, so I'm building me another quadcopter, and this is more of a budget quadcopter, a crash copter maybe. So for this quadcopter I'm looking for less expensive parts. This is a TBS Source 1 version 5 frame, so that's approximately what, $37. Very inexpensive frame. And yeah, it also doesn't come with a whole lot, but still, even then it's an inexpensive frame. I've got me some motors from my parts bin actually. That's why they aren't the same color. These are Equipent motors. And not bad motors at all, but definitely budget-oriented motors. Here is the stack I'll be using for that build. So this is from T-Motor, an F7 flight controller, a Sony flight controller, huh? What is that? Okay, I'll show you in this video. And a T-Motor Velox 50 amp 4-in-1 ESC. So to me that's quite weird to be looking at T-Motor components in a budget build. I generally was struck by the price, the low price of these components. Very, very weird. The return of the budget quadcopter. In this video I'm going to show you this flight controller and the 4-in-1 ESC and tell you what's interesting about this. But definitely the most interesting part of this stack is its price. And again, that's really weird for T-Motor. You wouldn't associate T-Motor with budget. I wouldn't. Okay, so yeah, there are links in the description to both of these, the flight controller and the 4-in-1 ESC. They are not affiliate links though. I'm not making any money from this video. Okay, let's have a close look at this stack.
You serious?
So guys, let's have a close look at our stack here. And I'm assuming that the F7, the flight controller, is the main star of the show. Even though I don't know. We'll have a look at both obviously. So, okay, you got some stickers, decals, T-Motor decals. That is always nice. And then we see our flight controller. Can I get it actually out? Well, brute force. Okay, so we obviously get a lot of gummies in different sizes. T-Motor always supplies yellow gummies, apparently, I think so. Right, this is actually my second stack from T-Motor. The first one also had yellow gummies. Okay, so again, Sony. What can be cinematic about a flight controller? Or what makes one flight controller more cinematic than the other? We see a flight controller. It does look nice and black and nicely laid out. All solder points are at the edges. All solder pads are of decent size, not huge. I've seen bigger from, for instance, diatone, but well, they're nicely laid out and they are big enough. Over here we see a connector for instance, DJI or digital setups, so that's always nice. And we see a USB-C connector. Yeah, okay, over here we see the processor, the F7 flight controller processor, and not a whole lot more on this side. Okay. I actually didn't really notice or was aware of this, but these connectors over here on your right, those make it a cinematic capable flight controller. What? Yeah, this flight controller is capable of driving X8 or 8 motor configurations. Hence the 2 connectors towards ESCs. I only have 1. But yeah, an X8, that's definitely typically a cinematic setup. Again, I won't be using them. I'll only be using 1 of those. But okay, so for the rest, over here, this chip over here is your OSD chip. Obviously, you can use this flight controller for digital setups, DJI digital setups or others, but there's still an analog OSD controller or processor over here. We also see these gray things, which are coils, and those provide at least 5 volts, but also 10. So we got 2 of those. Not all that uncommon, right? But that also 10 volts makes it DJI and other digital setups capable. Right, so far, by the way, I don't really see anything in the terms of, well, this is cheap. There are features lacking, maybe. There's even a barometer, even though I'm not sure what on this board is the barometer. Maybe you know, but this one? No, that's this one probably. Doesn't really matter all that much, of course, but maybe on the other side. Oh, those are tiny. That silvery thing over here is your barometer. I personally never used them, right? But maybe you have an application in which you need a barometer. This flight controller has a barometer. Okay, so again, we've got 10 volt and 5 volts, probably not 3.3. I'll put up a text underneath this video if there is 3.3 volts, but what do you really need it for these days? But I don't think any of the modern receivers require 3.3 volts. Okay, so yeah, a budget, well, for a T motor this is a budget flight controller. So is there anything lacking? There isn't anything in the sense of wireless configuration aids. A Bluetooth antenna. You don't see a Bluetooth antenna on this flight controller. So in the field you can't update your settings wirelessly from your phone on this. You'll have to tether it up with a USB to USB on the go cable. Not an issue for me. I'm fine with that. But if you tend to do your configuration in the field with your phone, that might sway you away from this flight controller. That's basically. Yeah, there's no LED controller, only probably one addressable, but nothing with a dedicated button on this flight controller. It's not, yeah, it has 2 outputs for your ESCs, and it has 2 voltage regulators. It has an OSD chip, which is very typical, of course. It has a connector for your DJI setup. And other than that, everything else will need to be soldered. Your receiver, LEDs, buzzer, GPS, that'll all have to be soldered on. Okay, so what else do we get? We get a bunch of cables, quite a bunch actually. Yeah, probably 2 for ESCs. This is one for an ESC. This one as well, so that's your 2 ESC ports covered. Then this one is also for an ESC, but then without a connector on one side, so to solder it onto your ESC. Then this is probably for your DJI setup. And no, this one actually looks to be for a DJI setup. So maybe this one is for other VTXs, right? And there's a 4th cable for ESCs, again without a connector on this side to solder on to your ESC. And again, you get a lot of gummies, basically, yeah, 2 sets of gummies from the looks of it, 1 long set and 1 short set, right? Okay, so again, it's not lacking of anything, but it's not super duper luxurious, or the other way around. The features of this flight controller is reflected in its price, which is fine by me. Then our 4-in-1 ESC 50 amp, which is more than enough for me. And again, we get some decals, always appreciated, thank you very much. And okie dokie, so this actually definitely doesn't look like anything, I'd say, budget oriented. That's not what it looks like, at least. You've got a nice aluminium, yeah, probably aluminium heatsink. I'm assuming it's, yeah, looks like a heatsink. It's directly glued onto the fets. So this is the top of the 4-in-1 ESC. So an RF shield, don't know, maybe it adds a little bit of RF shielding, but its intended use or its intention is, well, maybe to make it look nice, but also to provide some heat dissipation from the fets. Okay, we've got, yeah, solder pads and solder pads for the power leads. Also tiny little holes for your capacitor. I do appreciate that. Yeah, do I also appreciate that it comes with a capacitor? Yeah, it comes with a capacitor, so that's nice. It also comes with, I wasn't expecting that actually, and power leads, right, with an XT6C. Yeah, the leads are a little thin. Not sure what gauge this is. You can probably tell from the video that these wires are a little thin. Now I'll be running this quadcopter on 6S, which in turn will limit the amps, right? Voltage up, amps down for the same amount of power. So I'll be fine with these leads. Also, I'll make them, I always make them as short as possible, right? The resistance of a wire depends on its length and its thickness. Also the material it's made out of, but yeah, if you've been to school ever, you know that the shorter the wire, the lower its resistance. If the thickness is the same and the material is the same. Right, so again, I'm surprised that it actually comes with power leads and an XT60. Okay, and it also comes with 2 connecting wires. Yeah, so again, this 2 of these came with the flight controller. So a wire from your flight controller to your 4-in-1 ESC, and another one of these, the same thing basically, but without a connector, so you can solder it up or use other connectors, and you actually get 2 other connectors. Maybe the flight controller you're using uses different connectors. So okay, we get 4 gummies, no, 5 gummies, very nice. And we get a capacitor, and this is, let us see what this is. It's a 35 volts, for 6S that's fine, 470 microfarad, 470 microfarad. So nothing out of the ordinary. I would have liked to have seen a little bigger than this, say 800 to 1000. But we are dealing with a budget proposition here, right? The entire Velox line of a T-motor is their budget-oriented line. They also sell motors in the Velox line, as you know. So those are all budget propositions. So yeah, you get a capacitor and it'll do fine. I'll actually be using this. It'll be fine for my application. If I were to, let's say, use really big motors like 2208 and add a GoPro, a full GoPro to my quadcopter, and maybe want to do long range, so use a big heavy battery. In that case, a bigger capacitor would have been probably nice, so in that case I'd replace it. Alrighty guys, so a budget proposition from T-motor, and again, I wouldn't associate T-motor with budget at all. They are a reputable brand, so getting a stack from, again, a reputable brand at a reasonable price, that's a win for me. I have no doubt that this setup will work and work fine. Now I'll actually do a second video in which I fly this the quadcopter I'm building here. That'll be coming up soon, weather permitting. I'll be building this quadcopter off screen, and again, my next video in this series will be me flying this quadcopter. And we'll see, but again, I have no doubts about this setup. And you, if you're relatively new to the game, You might say, well, wait, $100, maybe a little less. At the time I ordered it, it was $45 a piece, $90, so below $100. That for me in 2023, for again a reputable brand, is a deal, right? Maybe I'll score more of these for other projects. Yeah, the most, again, reputable brands with an F7 and a 50 amp 32-bit flight controller, you'll be spending more, as you probably know. And that's it. If you are left with questions, or maybe you have input on this, maybe you actually use this setup, let me know in the comment section below what your findings are. Not just for me, but for other viewers. And yeah, again, that's it. If you're left with questions, hit me up a comment down below. Catch you on the next video. Bye bye.